North Vancouver, the sun is shining and I got some new stats for you. This is your market update for the month of June. So depending on what you hear in the news, the market hasn't been great, but when it comes to detached homes in North Vancouver, we see a sales to active ratio of 20.9%, meaning that we're in a seller's market. Now looking at inventory, we saw 381 active listings. Now that is a 27% increase from this time last year. And then we look at the sales, we saw 81 sales with an average days on market sitting in and around 18. Now benchmark pricing is at $2,240,000. That's a 2.6% decrease from this time last year. Now when we get to condos, it's a little bit of a different story. We're more in a balanced market where we saw the sales to active ratio sitting in and around 17.4%. Now, when we look at inventory, we have seen an increase of almost 34%, where we saw 474 active listings, and we saw 84 sales for this time last month. Now, days on market for a condo is sitting in and around 26. With that benchmark pricing not really moving, it's at $815,000 for a condo. Now, last but certainly not least in North Vancouver are townhomes. We saw townhomes at a sales to active ratio in and around 21.6%, meaning we are in a seller's market. However, when we look at the active listings, we saw 156 active listings. Now that's a 12% increase from this time last year. We did see 33 sales, and average days on market for a townhome is sitting in and around 16. However, we have seen that benchmark pricing has decreased 5.3% to a new benchmark price for a townhome at $1,351,000. So the big piece of real estate news is the Bank of Canada held that key interest rate at 2.7%, meaning that maybe this economy isn't as bad as everyone thinks, or they would have reduced that interest rate a little bit, maybe a lot, but however, that's a good thing if you are a seller. And if you're a buyer, you might have a little bit more confidence jumping back into the market. West Vancouver, we have an update with the interest rate and we have the new numbers for our June market update. Let's get into it. All right, let's talk about detached homes. We saw 562 active listings. Now that is up 6.4% from this time last year. Average days on market and numbers of sales in West Vancouver is sitting at 45, with benchmark pricing at $3,195,000. With a sales to active ratio at 8%, we did see an increase from this time last year, so there have been a few more sales in West Vancouver. So detached is actually in a buyer's market, and when we go to condos, we see that we saw 126 active listings with 14 sales. Now that's significantly down from this time last year. That's almost down 46%. With the average days on market sitting in and around 27 and benchmark pricing at $1,289,000, the sales to active ratio for condos is sitting in and around 11.1%, which means we're more in a balanced market for condos, but we have seen an uptick from this time last month for condos. Last but certainly not least, we have townhomes, and we saw 36 active listings with 6 sales, and average days on market is sitting in and around 37. Now there wasn't enough data to give you a benchmark pricing for townhomes, but when we do talk about what's going on in the market, we did see that interest rate get held to 2.75%. Now some realtors are saying that's a bad thing, but personally I think that's a great thing. That means our economy is not going absolutely to the tank, or else they would have reduced that interest rate. So I do think you'll start to see more and more buyers come into the market, and these numbers are proving it just from this time last month. Now, if you have any questions or want to learn a little bit more, I'm Anthony Trinetti, and enjoy the sun, and remember, when you're ready, call Trinetti.